All right, welcome to the Pickup Korea podcast. And today I want to discuss persistence and perseverance, right? So, one major thing when you're meeting, approaching, dating, even texting Korean girls is persistence. So, what I've noticed time and time again, even yesterday, I was actually out and about, hitting up the streets with a couple friends, an old client, and everything. And one thing that I really noticed as a big difference between, newbies or guys who have perhaps experience in Western countries with Western women, and then they come to Korea, they try to meet, approach, date, and obviously text to get dates with Korean girls, is they often lack persistence, right? And so what do I mean by that? So I'll give you an example. Oftentimes when you approach a Korean girl in the daytime, in a bar, in any given situation, they will often have a shield, especially very attractive girls. They'll often have a bit of a shield. They'll often, and even if they're not super attractive, they'll often be shy, reserved, soft-spoken, have little words in the beginning, right? And so what will happen is guys will, see a girl who is very much their type. They'll go talk to her, and oftentimes they'll misinterpret her behavior, right? And so, for example, they'll make a comment about her, and then they'll just kind of stand there and make another comment and then kind of give up, right? And the girl's just kind of standing, looking, maybe nodding her head, maybe saying, or whatever, right? And they'll just kind of eject themselves from the interaction, right? I like to call this premature ejaculation, right? And so what they're doing is they're totally ending the interaction because they think that it's going nowhere, when in fact, if she's there, if she's responsive, even, doesn't need to be extremely verbally responsive, but as long as she's not calling it off, walking away, being extremely dismissive, like, sorry, I gotta go, that kind of thing, right? Then one needs to stay in, one needs to be persistent, right? And so oftentimes, and much in the beginning of the interaction, unlike their Western counterparts, they will kind of rely on you to lead the conversation, to frame the conversation, to frame the interaction, to lead the interaction forward, to make it into something, rather than sort of just, as soon as you say something, be very, what would you say? Be very social, very responsive. Oh, wow, where are you from? Da, 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 da. And you will get those kind of girls, of course, those, what I call the social butterfly types, perhaps the ones that lived abroad, that, lived overseas, maybe speak good English, maybe they're just friendly, maybe they've adapted a bit into the Western culture and everything, right? However, the majority of local girls, Korean girls in general, generally speaking, are a little bit more often passive on the open, right? In the beginning of the approach. So, therefore, when you approach, it's important to be persistent. It's important to be patient in a way, right? It's important to persevere through the interaction and try to make something out of it, right? And so that being said, of course, as I mentioned, if they're really dismissive, you can cut it early. You can, statement of empathy. Oh, you look really busy. Okay, I've got to go. Have a good day. Or just walk away. But, oftentimes guys will confuse a sort of apprehension, a shyness, reservedness, almost even confusion on how to respond, almost an excitement, but they can't talk. So there's all these sort of emotions going through her head, right? Her personality, her emotions, maybe confusion about English, perhaps, maybe not sure what to say, that sort of fear of being approached. Not that she doesn't like it, but rather that it sort of hits her off kilter, right? Kind of didn't expect it, so kind of, what would you call that? Like a deer in the headlights kind of thing, right? And so one must be persistent, one must stay in, one must continue to, after the open, continue to chat about what you noticed about her, maybe a bit about what you're up to today, your background story, right? And then, vibe on some topics as we went over in like a typical good interaction. Sort of share your story, explore hers, have a bit of flirtation, banter, joking, jumping around topics, opening up about her, cold reading her, and then, of course, leading things forward to maybe even getting some food or drinks that day or another day, maybe exchanging details or not, right? And so, yeah, one thing is thinking that it's just saying hello is good enough, or like expecting the girl to really carry the interaction, whether that's a first approach in a bar or club, on a date even, showing up to a date, and like one common thing I'll hear is like, the girl was really boring. She didn't like, I was there and I was just asking her questions and she was kind of shy and not so responsive. But oftentimes it's on you to lead it to interesting places, right? So kind of like you're the conductor of the symphony. You need to lead the way the song's going to go, right? Kind of move the pieces around, so to speak, right? And so the same thing here in the interaction and the approach on the date, it really is up to you. And that being said, the majority of girls, as time goes on, as they get more comfortable around you, right? Then they start to relax a bit. They start to become more comfortable, more familiar, ease up a bit. And then from there, they start to respond even more, maybe even ask questions, maybe share much more about themselves, vibe a bit more, and so on and so forth, right? And so, yeah, that's one thing, is really in the beginning when you're starting out, when you're talking to some new Korean girls, really doing your best to just stay in the interaction as long as you can, and really not allowing yourself to leave the interaction unless really she does first, just to get used to staying in it, being persistent, carrying the conversation, leading the interaction forward, right? And also, I'm talking a lot about approaching and on dates and things like this, right? The same concept also applies in text message too, right? So what will often happen is guys will get a number and, they'll send a text or whatever. And I noticed this is a big problem recently, just looking at some new guys' texts and everything, is that they will send an initial message, they'll get a response, and then they'll kind of, what's the term, like not text back for a day or two or three, and they're just not persistent in it. And they're thinking maybe it's more like the West. Oh, maybe I'll, show her I'm cool and I'll message her back in a few days. But really, at the end of the day, by not being persistent within the texts, by not following up, it just sort of shows you're aloof, that you're not very interested in their mind, right? You're not into them. You're not interested in them. You're a bit too aloof, and it gives off the vibe that, maybe you're not interested. Maybe you have other things going on or something like that, right? Which is good to have other things going on. You don't want to be always on your phone. You want to have portray that you have an actual life, a career, you have, hobbies, social circle, other ambitions, other things going on, events, trips and things like that, right? But at the same time, if you don't text her back at all, or, at least have a degree of persistence daily upon getting the contact detail, the cacao or what have you, then really it'll fall out very quickly, right? And then that being said, you can have some that fall out within a few days or a week, and even being persistent by following up some older numbers later, maybe after a month. Maybe they're going through something that week. They mentioned they have a churjang, which is like a business trip, so nothing's really going to happen. You'll send some texts, and then, maybe a few weeks later, you hit them up, kind of rekindle things. It's also good to be persistent in following up your old leads, because here and there, some that you're really into, you can actually make out plan on a date for later by following them up, randomly, sporadically. And it's one of those things that's sort of retargeting. You're kind of playing luck of the draw in a way. It's sort of like, sending out a bunch of emails and, for some event, from some old business partners or clients of yours. And then of course, some will open it, some might come out to the event, right? It's the same kind of thing with that concept, is that by kind of retargeting some old leads, being persistent, and showing that you still remember them, showing that you're persistent, that can often be that can be endearing in the girl's eyes, right? And here, of course, I'm not saying to be a stalker. You can take this advice wrong, like, I'm going to persist even when she, doesn't respond every day for a year. I mean, you can take this, into creepy territory, of course. But that being said, if you're coming from the West, you're likely going to want to be a lot more persistent, follow up a lot more, re-ping the girls, re-update them with new texts, new updates in your life, new greeting texts or whatever, here and there, a lot more than you would in Western countries, right? So yeah, one thing is in dating in Korea, persistence, perseverance is a really important attribute to develop, right? And as I mentioned, this idea to do this podcast actually came into my head yesterday after going out with one of the newer clients of late, and noticing that he would talk to a girl, or he would open, but he would kind of eject himself early. Some of the times it's because he thought they were not interested, I think. He would even mention that, or that he, which was not true, they're just kind of shy. They need to warm up, sort of like a cat on your side, needs a little bit of comfort, a little bit of time together. But also, since the girls can be kind of silent sometimes, or have these kind of reactions, and then there's this sort of awkward silence, right? This sort of pregnant pauses. A lot of guys get sort of nervous, they get sort of flustered, they get sort of, awkward, I guess, during those silences, and they just eject themselves, right? And so another key aspect in really getting better, whether that's in the approach, the date, is being comfortable in those silence and in those gaps, right? So learning to relax in those gaps, learning to take the pauses comfortably, and then, adding in another comment, adding in another statement, adding in another question afterwards, and continuing the interaction rather than running away scared because of the girl's kind of shy, kind of silent, kind of has a shield up, but is still there responding. Instead of ejecting yourself, just remaining composed, so to speak, and continuing the interaction, right? And at the end of the day, it's really the it's kind of, I remember hearing this a long time ago, back in the day, it's sort of like the last man standing, right? It's like, you can be, a lot of guys might approach the same girl. I even yesterday was out with a friend, and he was about to go approach a girl, and a Korean guy approached, and he got blown out, I think, in like a minute, less than a minute. And then my friend goes in there, and then he sticks it out for a bit, even longer, right? Even stays in there even longer, but still didn't work out. But that being said, of course it could have, right? If you just ejected too early, it's not going to work out. But he goes in there, at least makes a little bit more of an interaction, a little bit more of a conversation, right? Sticks it out, earns respect, right? And I think she had a boyfriend or something. But in a given situation, if she's, emotionally available, logistically available, and you're persistent, that will pay off often to a good interaction, and even a phone number, even a date that day perhaps, right? And so just shows the importance of being persistent, of really sticking it out, being the last man standing, whether that's, when you approach them, it could be in a bar as well, right? There'll be a lot of other guys approaching. Maybe you talk to her, maybe you go grab a drink, you reapproach her, and sort of being that last man standing, still persistent with her. Maybe you can make something happen at the end, or maybe schedule something for later, right? And so ultimately, at the end of the day, the guys who are getting the results are going to be the persistent ones. All right, so I hope this was very useful. It's very, culture specific, Korea specific, in many ways, really Asia specific, right? And so I hope you can go out there, be more persistent, show them you're the guy who doesn't give up. Show them you're the guy who has patience, which is a very good attribute that they're looking for. and show them that you can kind of ride it out. You can be persistent. You can lead the conversation, lead things forward, and make something happen for the both of you. And as a win-win relationship connection. All right. Until next time.